Welcome to Nighttime Conversations with Steve and Freya, where we take on the deeper subjects of relationships, life, love, sex, and personal happiness. I'm your host, Freya Norden, and I'm here with Steve McEwen. Remember to like and subscribe.
Today is Saturday, January 2nd, 2021, part of the new year. And usually this time of year, people are making New Year's resolutions. And I've been inspired with something that happened recently with me, talking with Freya Norden. And she mentioned sexual New Year's resolutions. And I went, what? So I asked her, put that on hold. Hang on for a sec. Let's save that for a podcast because I want to hear all about it. Let's talk about sexual New Year's resolutions. Freya, take it. Help you.
Hi, Steve. Happy New Year.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to you. Tell me about this. What is this? What is this thought of sexual New Year's resolutions?
Yeah, well, okay, so everybody's making New Year's resolutions for fitness and money and all these kinds of things. And I think that particularly with the last year, and I hate saying the C word, I'm going to say COVID here and there, but I think that there's a lot of people who are frustrated sexually.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of people have as their plan of action for sexual frustration, look at more porn, make passive-aggressive comments, complain about the lack of sex or complain about how sex is boring, or even, kind of get nasty about it and start making nasty comments. And it doesn't actually go much further than that as far as, when you're unhappy with sexual problems. So I wanted to bring up the subject of how about taking action that feels good and is empowering and effective?
So are we talking a new start sort of thing?
I'm talking about a new perspective.
Okay.
Versus a new start, because there's a broad spectrum of people who may be frustrated sexually, from people who've been married for a long time to people who are single and maybe they're not having any sex at all. Maybe they're having trouble meeting people. I think that in any circumstance, there can be a different approach to sexuality so that you feel like you are, again, on an empowered path versus that feeling of frustration and that feeling of disempowerment or victimhood.
Yeah, what you said earlier, I see a lot of that in various discussion groups where there's a lot of complaint, and it's not intentional. Nobody decides, I'm going to be grumpy and angry at my wife today, but the complaint is, I want more sex and it's not happening. And there could be a tone of resentment, a tone of how do we make this happen? So you're the expert in this field. I'm going to lean on you and tell me, where do we go from here? How do we start? What are the options?
First, let's talk about the whole complaining thing. Now, I know, when I look back at my marriage, which was a very long time ago, oh my gosh, almost 20 years ago, I did a lot of complaining about there not being enough sex. And then after a little while, it's not just that there wasn't enough sex, but it was also really boring. My husband wasn't seducing me or making me feel attractive.
Yeah.
And my way of dealing with that was I would bottle it up. And then once a month, and usually that was when I was PMSing because I had less control over my emotions then, it would all come out. And I would complain about it. I would bitch. I would be kind of passive aggressive, and then I'd bottle it all up again, and I'd manage to hold it all in for another month. And this was just a cycle that continued, and it wasn't effective. It didn't work for me at all. Have you ever had any of those kinds of experiences?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
In my previous lives with a number of partners, I always believed that the problem was her. That's what I believed at the time. And now I know, of course, it was a delusion, but I always believed the problem is her because she won't give me sex when I want it, or what do I need to learn to turn you on so I can flip that switch and make you haughty to want to have sex with me. That's where my mind was at the time. So I can relate to this.
Yeah.
And something Esther Perel said about this, it pertains to what you said, is that she said that famous relationship counselor Esther Perel said that behind every complaint is a desire, is a request. But we're not articulating it that way. We're not saying, I wish you would hold me. We're saying, you're always busy with this and you're always doing that. We complain about something rather than asking for the thing we truly desire.
Mm-hmm. But sometimes even asking for something that you desire doesn't mean you're going to get it.
Yep.
And that's one of the problems is when you ask for something and you don't get it, then what?
Yeah.
And I would say that's as much of a problem as the people who just say, well, you never do anything romantic for me anymore. Well, you never really spend any time on foreplay. You don't give me any blowjobs.
Yeah. That's very different than asking, I would like to spend an evening with you uninterrupted.
You don't buy me any jewelry.
Yeah.
But even if somebody asks for something, because like I said, asking is no guarantee that you're going to get from that person that you have made a decision to get everything from.
Yeah.
Which in itself can be problematic.
Yep.
So what can people do to feel better and to feel more empowered instead of feeling like a victim? Because I think that once you start feeling like you're trapped or like you are subject to the other person's moods, whims, and they're in control, you can start onto a downward cycle.
Yeah.
Which only gets worse, and it can only get worse as long as you're in that mindset.
Yeah. For our listening audience, a victim mindset typically has a number of beliefs, and that is, I am injured, you have injured me, and I can't be better, I can't feel better, I can't heal unless you change. Those are typically the things that are part of the victim mindset.
Well, when people talk about, when therapists talk about and counselors talk about giving away your power, I think that we're used to talking about women in that context. Oh, you give away your power. And I don't think many people really know what that means. And I'm going to say that men give away their power just as much as women do. So this is any gender. This is not women specific. It's not men specific. It's anybody. As soon as you put your personal well-being and your feelings of okayness in somebody else's hands, you're giving away your power.
That's huge. Yeah.
And if we left the podcast at that, it would be fine, because that's a big thing to percolate on. And I think that most people have a lot of ways where they hand their power over to somebody else.
Yeah.
Even if they're handing their power over to, let's just say they have a very critical mother who, normally they live a good life. They're happy-go-lucky, things are good. They have a good husband. And then they go home to their mums for Christmas, and their mum just sort of criticizes them left, right, and center. And even if their mum doesn't criticize, maybe she just comments, I see you cut your hair.
Yeah. Yep.
And I see your hair is short. Now, in that comment, there's an implied criticism to which the person responds by feeling, I feel like shit, my mom is criticizing me. You've just handed over your power to somebody who's not using it responsibly.
Oh, I can so relate to that.
Right?
Including the mother scenario. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Now, most people only go as far as to say, oh, my mom is so difficult.
Yep.
Oh, I feel so terrible every time. But you have to go a little bit beyond that. Mm-hmm. It's not, your mom is just being your mom.
Yep.
You're the one that gave her the power to make you feel like shit. So how do you change that? And that's what I want to talk about today, because a lot of people have handed over all of their well-being and all of their sense of well-being and sexual happiness to somebody else who may or may not be using it responsibly.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Another way of saying that is, I can't be happy unless you are X or unless you are not X. That belief means my happiness, my well-being is dependent on you behaving a certain way rather than I'm accountable for my happiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's get into specifics, because I want to be super practical with this.
So I'm going to let you go on this because I'm dying to hear what you got to say. And I just want to remind you that at some point I want to tell you the true story of what you just said and how that relates to my mother. She's passed away now, but I had that exact same experience where, my mother, she's so irritating. I can't stand it. And eventually the change to make her less irritating wasn't her changing. It was me changing. So do your part first. I want to hear you tell me what's going on first, and then I'll share my story afterwards.
Okay. Because actually I have a group exercise that I want to do for the listeners, and I think that your story would be the perfect conclusion after that exercise. It's funny because I wrote out the exercise today. Yeah. So this has been, 2020. It was a really hard year in relationships. Actually, in the therapist and coaches circles, we're talking about, oh my God, prepare yourself for the influx of divorces, because it's been such a difficult year.
Yeah.
It makes sense because there's a huge number of stress factors, which can feel like everything is out of your control. For a lot of people, there's financial devastation. Being at home 24/7 with people that you were never designed to be in 24/7 contact with. Like, we're just not designed to be like that. And what may have been a working relationship, as long as the two of you didn't have that much contact, is no longer a working relationship when you're together at all times. And same with children. Like, children, human beings were meant to be in a tribe, in a community.
Yeah.
Children were not meant to be isolated with a parent at all times. So there's another stress. Like, this is unnatural. And I think that the unnatural stress is leading to natural dissatisfaction. You've got to put that stress somewhere.
Yeah.
And we're putting that stress on each other. We're taking all of it and then we're projecting it on the easiest target. And the easiest target is often the person that we're with, whether that's the spouse or the kids. Because we're talking New Year's sexual resolutions, I want to keep it to the spouse. Mm-hmm. So all of this frustration, fear, and stress can lead to emotional states where you don't have access to the type of high-level thinking, loving, and generosity of heart and spirit, which is necessary for a loving and happy dynamic. And what I mean by that is, on the scale of emotions, I'm going to put a link in the show notes to the scale of emotions. Mm-hmm. The lower level feelings, which are things like guilt, shame, fear, anger, frustrations, these are very destructive and low level, and they're unhealthy.
And they feel crummy too.
That's how you know they're unhealthy, because they feel bad.
Okay.
If something is a healthy emotion, it feels good. If something is an unhealthy emotion and destructive to your health, to your well-being, to your relationships, and to everything, even to your careers, you know it because it feels bad. Like, your body gives you an indicator, mm-hmm. which is how most people know. And if Steve, you and I were talking about Abraham Hicks earlier. I've been a fan of Abraham Hicks for a long time, but she talks about how your emotional guidance system, you reach for the better feeling thought, but that's a whole nother story. So for many people, it's no longer possible because of COVID, because of the lockdowns, because of what's happening in society. A lot of firms are choosing to have people work from home. It's no longer possible to avoid problematic patterns of thinking and emotions. So in the past, what I talked about, this was a working relationship as long as I didn't have to see that much of you. Now that I'm seeing you all the time, it's no longer working, and people can no longer escape their patterns because it's like it's like a pressure cooker right now. Everything is like all right there in the forefront. You can't escape. It's too much.
Yeah. There's another added aspect to that, and that is if we have the distraction of work and busy stuff, then that keeps us our mind occupied on something else rather than being alone with our thoughts and then really having to face the stuff inside us that doesn't feel comfortable. So it's just much easier to be focused on work. That's a great distraction rather than who am I with my wife.
Well, there's a lot of ways to escape. There's work. Work is a way to escape. Socialization, going and hanging out with your friends or hanging out at the bar. Marijuana is an escape. Now, marijuana is interesting in that if you were in despair, in severe pain, in grief, in basically the lowest level of feelings, marijuana can be a positive step to feeling a little bit better. But it's still not a high level way of thinking and being, because you're no longer present.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a terrible state, if you're in like the worst you can be, marijuana can give you a little hand up, but it can't actually get you into a healthy, positive, connected way of being.
Yeah. An example of that is chronic leg pain. Smokes marijuana, you can ease the pain. It's no longer hurting as much.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
chronic emotional pain. I'm suffering from this. I'm feeling horribly lonely. Some marijuana can temporarily ease that. And it eases the pain temporarily, but it's not the fix to the actual problem.
So when people when people are addressing their sexual frustrations, usually there's this sense of, I want more sex. I'm not happy. I'm not going to be happy unless you give it to me. Or a lot of times in this sort of wanting sex, and we've addressed this in other podcasts, it's not actually like they're horny.
Right.
It's not that they desire their partner, but what they want is a feeling that they've associated with having sex.
Right. It's not just the orgasm. It's not when a guy complains, I'm not getting enough sex. It's not like I don't get a chance to masturbate alone often enough. That's not the story. It's the story
because
is deeper.
So if that was really the story, why don't you just go masturbate?
Yeah, easily fixed. That the story is usually, I want more sex with my wife, and you're asking the question, well, what does it represent to you? What are you looking for? What feeling do you seek to get through that?
And it's not, but the thing is, that's what's really interesting about that. He's like, well, I want more sex with my wife,
mm-hmm.
but so is it really that you want more sex with your wife? Or is it that you want the feelings and the connectedness and the love that making love with her generates? And usually they want validation.
Yeah.
They want to know that they're important. They want to know they're important, not just vaguely. They're important to her. They want to know that they're desirable. They want to feel like they're a man. They want to feel like they're still alive. And yes, often there's a pleasure aspect to it. Like, look, it feels good to have somebody go down on you. But usually it's not about that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people would just go and hire an escort or hire somebody to, like, here's $30, give me a blowjob.
Or get a really great feeling sex toy. It's not what they're looking for. You're right.
It's not what they're looking for. They're looking for a feeling.
Yeah, the easy way to imagine that is for guys, I'm speaking to guys now, is imagine if your wife just lays down on the bed and says, okay, do me. Is that what you're looking for? You've got availability to sex now. Go ahead, do me. No, and that's not what the guy's looking for. He's not looking for a woman who says, go ahead and do me. It's okay. I've got 20 minutes. Go ahead and do me. What he's looking for is her passionate interest in him, her excitement to be with him, her desire to want him. And you're right. And those are just symptoms of the feelings he wants, such as I am worthy, I am lovable, I'm desired, I'm somebody, I'm not a worthless guy who's out of work right now, who can't support his family. I am valued, I'm desired, I'm wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just as an aside, this is often the reason why people have affairs. They don't have affairs because their partner isn't good enough.
Yeah. Or because they're horny. Yeah.
They don't have affairs because they're horny.
Yeah.
They have affairs because there's a feeling that they're looking for, and they think that they can get it through this other person.
Yeah.
So my idea of a New Year's sexual resolution is to work on yourself. And I know that there's going to be an immediate visceral response like, fuck you. This is not going to get me the sex that I want. Mm. This is a useless New Year's resolution. But if you do this, and hear me out, it will change your sexual life. And currently we're in a situation which is somewhat out of our control. I can't control what the government's doing. I can't control the lockdowns. I can't control the work environment or any of those kinds of things. And ultimately, I can't control anybody else around me too, and what they give to me and what they don't give to me.
Yeah, free will steps in.
Yeah. What I can control is how I feel and how connected I feel and how satisfied I feel and how fulfilled I feel, regardless of what anybody else is doing. And the interesting and ironic thing is, the better you feel in that regard, the more good stuff like sex, like sexual attention, like sexual validation, like people who just want to make you feel good and do everything that you could possibly want sexually, the more shows up. It's almost like you can't get there from here. You can't get more satisfying sex from an emotional place of frustration and resentment. And as long as you're resenting, that resentment is going to hold you apart from the types of experiences that you want.
This might sound woo-woo to some of our listeners, but I hear you entirely. I hear you.
It sounds woo-woo, but it's not.
I hear you completely what you're talking about, and I agree with you. I'm on side.
I know that men who consider themselves sexually underprivileged, I'm using that word. I'm using that word
purposely.
God.
Yeah.
Who consider themselves sexually underprivileged and have a resentment towards men who have a way with women.
Yeah.
It's not that they look good. It's not that they have big dicks. It's not that they have a lot of money. It's not that they have big muscles. What's appealing is really your underlying emotional vibration. And I'm using that term vibe. Yeah. Sorry, I'm using it.
That's okay.
But it's really true. And it works that way within a relationship as well.
Yeah.
So coming back to the beginning of the podcast, when we were saying, like, if you complain about, it's not like we do it anymore. It's, we're basically in a sexless marriage. Oh, it's not like you really want me anymore. If you complain and you're coming from that place, you're basically the least attractive you can possibly be.
Oh yeah. Who goes to
there's nothing that can make you more repulsive to your partner.
Who goes to a bar and says, "Oh, that guy complaining there, that's what I want." Never happens. Yeah.
No, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And passive aggressive comments, there's like hints. There's nothing less attractive than a hint or passive aggressive comment about sex.
Yeah.
Nothing. Even with people who you love and find sexually attractive, if they behave in that manner and they're coming from that energy and from that space.
Yeah.
The person that, I remember I had a lover and I was so attracted to this lover. Like, I was so attracted to him in all the ways. And one of the things I wasn't attracted to is he had this kind of entitled, selfish attitude towards sex. Not that he wasn't a good lover. He was very giving to me because he liked my responses, but he would make comments about blowjobs because I didn't give him a lot of blowjobs. And the reason I didn't is because he was a little bit entitled and it sort of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
So he would throw in these little hints about blowjobs and about erotic massage.
Yeah.
Because he wanted that from me.
Yeah. Would it be kind of like a snarky remark like, "I'm in a blowjob deficit this week," or something like that?
Those weren't the words, but he would just throw
along
things.
That line.
Yeah. And sometimes he would make comments about how in the past he would. So he would say, "Oh yeah, I was driving and I drove by this girl that he used to see, and she would give him like an hour blowjob like a couple times a week." And she noticed his car and she was smiling at him, and he would try to make me a little jealous, like as if, oh, she's giving him attention. I'm at risk somehow of him getting a blowjob from her. I was like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like honestly, that's not gonna. The only thing that would inspire me to give him a generous and I mean generous blowjob would be if I felt that he was coming at me with the same energy.
Yeah.
And that would open up my heart. And when my heart is open, I will give anything.
So I just want to shine a light on two things. One is to be self-aware so that we can tell, is this thing I'm saying, is that a jab that is a backhanded jab that I'm sending to my partner because I want something, but I'm being critical. So be self-aware. Be self-aware. And the other is if your entire objective is to get, I need to get sex, you'll be sending off a different vibe than, I really like you, I appreciate you. And
I really like you and I appreciate you is pretty much the most compelling erotic vibration that you can send out.
I heard a female comedian just recently, and this was on TV, not in person, and she said, "Don't you just hate it when guys are just like nagging at you just to get sex? It's such a turnoff." And she says, "I've recently met a guy who says, 'Hey, hon, we don't have to do sex. That's totally fine.'" And she says, "What? Wait, what? We don't have to do sex? Oh, now we have to."
I know, right? But that's how it works. That's really how it works. And so what you said about when you said
self-awareness,
the self-awareness, and when you make a comment. So if you catch yourself making a comment or thinking a thought, because they're the same thing, they have the same effect. Actually, you don't have to say a word. If you're thinking a thought and having that feeling of resentful sexual complaint,
it comes out somehow. Yeah.
So catch yourself and reframe it to, okay, here's this person that I want something from. Instead of thinking about the complaint, imagine appreciating them erotically.
Yeah.
Which sounds very woo-woo, and it sounds like, this is a bunch of new age bullshit stuff, but I can tell you it works. If you appreciate somebody erotically, it's like magic.
And that appreciation has to be genuine appreciation rather than I'm saying this to get sex.
Yes. Yeah, that energy of getting, it doesn't work. Yeah. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work. I say unfortunately, it's not that unfortunate. So
what you describe as my life is for most of my life, I craved the attention of women, believing I can only be happy if I find a partner who's going to give me abundant sex, who's always a hottie, who's bisexual. I can only be happy if I find that. And I really believed it. And I got virtually no sex, and I was an unhappy guy, continued to be an unhappy guy. Eventually, I worked on shifting who I am. For me, this took me many years, but on the far side of the journey, I eventually discovered that sex is really easy to get, and it's no longer a big deal. It's no longer the thing I'm aching for. What I really like is connection. Mm-hmm. And now I can meet a really attractive woman or just an average looking woman. I can connect with somebody and really like them. And somehow they sense this, that I'm really liking you. And it leads to a closer and emotionally closer connection that might inspire someone to a sensual, erotic, or sexual experience. It's not a guarantee, but it might inspire them in that direction. Just that whole thing of, I authentically appreciate you. We don't need to get sexy. That's totally fine. I'm just liking who you are. I like to be in your presence. I just like being around you, and here's why I like it. That is a different kind of vibe than, so are we going to play?
Mm-hmm.
Totally different.
So practically speaking, if you want to, working on yourself versus working on getting. Mm-hmm. Working on yourself is a sort of roundabout way of having what you want sexually come to you naturally.
Yeah.
And some of the things I'm going to recommend, instead of saying, give me more sex, particularly in this, like I called it, like a pressure cooker environment, mm-hmm. where we can't always control how much stress we have. We can't control how much stress is going on in the household with kids or with work or this and that. So pick some things this year that you are going to learn and master and enjoy to feel better about yourself. And some specific examples are something that you can do with your partner, or even if you're single, it doesn't matter. There's an app called OMG Yes. Have you heard of it, Steve?
I have not. Actually, I've heard the name, but I've never looked into it. So
it's all over. Like it's like every second ad on my Facebook is like OMG Yes, which tells you about their targeting. So it's an app that has studied women across the board and distilled their sexual responses into duplicatable actions.
I'm all ears. Keep on going.
Yes. And so what they're like, everybody always says, women are a mystery. Every woman is different. The technique is different, this and that. Not really. There are patterns. And the only reason that women are a mystery is because women have never been given the type of attention that men have in science. So somebody actually put the attention onto women and into studying their erotic response and different ways that women respond sexually. So if you care about learning, see, this is the thing, like when people want to learn about the opposite sex and their sexual responses, they think that somehow taking like a 2-hour course is going to teach them everything that they need to know about sexuality. Like, look, if you want to study the opposite sex, this is a lifelong study. It doesn't happen in a year. It doesn't happen in a day or a month or whatever. So OMG yes is one of those things which can improve. If you're a woman, it can improve your self-understanding. If you're a man, it can improve your understanding of women. And so, for example, if the two of you get this oh my God yes or OMG yes, or one of you gets it, you can improve your understanding of women's sexual response.
Okay, so I don't know anything about this app, but I'm guessing that it's not, how do I manipulate this woman into give me the sex I want? What do I have to do in order to get the sex I want?
No, it's understanding female sexual response.
Yeah. So I'm just speculating that it's likely in the direction of, if I can be a more generous person and take the pressure off of sex, if I can take the expectation of sex off the table and just be receptive to allowing it should it arise, that increases the chances of it happening.
Well, it's like this. If you understand how, okay, say you want to get fitter.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to get fitter. You can either understand physiology and how muscle grows and how, okay, this is how a muscle works. I have to feed the muscle. I have to work the muscle. I have to allow it proper rest, and it builds itself. And there are other factors in play, such as age and hormones and all these kinds of things. If you understand that, then you can pretty much design your own program as far as making your muscles grow or being fit in a certain way. Mm-hmm. If you don't understand that, you're at the whims of coaches or people who really don't know anything about fitness, but they were lucky maybe to be blessed with a good physique.
Yeah.
Telling you how to be fit.
Yeah.
So what do you, like, I don't know, I guess maybe it's a person, I want to know how things work.
Yeah.
And sex is very interesting to me. So I care about how sex works, and I want to know, well, how do men work? I have the benefit of, because of my work, I get bodies hands-on. I get to experiment with bodies. I get to see them. I get to feel them. I get to see patterns over years and years and years and years and years. I get to see the patterns of how people sexually respond in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. And my understanding
most people don't get that experience.
My understanding of your work is it's not just physical techniques. It also includes understanding how a mind works and understanding what turns on the mind and tapping into that.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So for example, a New Year's resolution may be, well, instead of just seeing if I can get a few more blowjobs this month, maybe the two of us can sign up for the Oh My God Yes. Another New Year's resolution or another good opportunity would be there's an app, I think it's called Dipsy. So that's all erotic stories. So for example, the two of you can say, hey, I'm going to read, it doesn't have to be on Dipsy, it can be anywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm going to read erotic stories, and maybe we're going to read one or two of them to each other at nighttime per month. And either talk about, well, what was it about that story that turned you on? Another one may be, for example, personal empowerment. So David Snyder, who's somebody that I really, really admire, he's taught me a lot. He talks about attraction and seduction. Those are buzzwords, but really David Snyder is about empowering yourself to be the best person that you can be. And in that, you will naturally attract the kinds of things that you want in your life, including sex. So with David Snyder's work, maybe you're going to work on yourself. And I'm saying that if you want more and better sex, stop looking at where you think or believe the source of that satisfaction is coming from. Look in the mirror and start being the change that you want to see from other people.
The message I'm getting, at least the way my brain interprets what you're saying, is I'm seeing, instead of thinking I need sex so I can feel better, is adopt the perspective of allow myself, figure out how to become a happier being, figure out how to be more joyful. And then that, through my interactions with others, that joy that I'm bringing now to the table, that's what I'm contributing, is the happiness, the joy, the well-being. That then inspires well-being and joy within others, and then that creates the opportunities for greater desire and possibly more sex.
Yeah. And another one. So I'm going to put a list in the show notes of different resources for people who would like to, I guess, improve themselves sexually. Another one is bettymartin.org.
Yeah.
She's got this series of videos and information on the wheel of consent. And it's a sidestep to, instead of saying, give me more sex, instead you're learning about how each other works and what the dynamics of giving, receiving, allowing. This is a big thing. If you understand more about your partner and yourself, you're going to naturally have better experiences. So I really wanted to, before you told your mother's story, Steve, I wanted to give a practical example of what I'm talking about when I say have this experience, like be the change that you want to see in the other person.
I'm all for that.
Are you ready for that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I've been working on that for 12 years and making amazing progress. So I swear by that. Instead of trying to get whatever it is that you seek, is be the person that is the substance of that stuff.
So this thing, I'm going to lead our listeners through a group experience, and it's really important that you participate, because listening and intellectualizing is not going to give you that aha moment of, oh, this is what it feels like to actually embody the experience of being okay.
Okay, so I'll play along, but do I need a box of Kleenexes by my side?
I don't know, Steve. You may.
Okay, hang on.
I don't think you will, because it's not one of those like, oh, I'm going to go and heal all your traumas. It's more, I want to give an example of. I
got the Kleenexes just in case, but I want to play along with you. So go ahead, do it.
All right. I want you to. You can do this in real life, or you can just mentally do it. List 10 or 20 things that there are to complain about right now in the world at large, like global politics, or your smaller world, like your car breaking down, the faucet leaking, COVID, masks, money, racism, sexism. There's a lot of shitty things. And I want you to go on a mini internal rant about one of your favorite subjects to be pissed off about.
Okay.
Are you pissed off? Can you go on one, Steve?
I can do it. Do you want me to actually talk about it?
Yeah, go on one.
Okay. Human-caused global climate change. It pisses me off that
me too.
The signs are everywhere. We've been knowing about this for decades, and yet there are millions of people in denial saying, no, it's not happening. Humans aren't causing it. Just keep on doing things as we are. I could go on that for hours.
Yeah, so could I. And especially because, you know why? It's because money. And I'm like, how can you put more billions? Like, it's not like you need anything.
Yeah.
Like, you don't fucking need a thing. How can you put more billions over the earth? Really? Yeah. Anyway, so go on, like, for a minute, okay?
Go on.
Okay.
So, do you want me to keep on ranting?
You can keep on ranting, but really what I really want is for people to access that anger and access that bitching, that complaining, that feeling of like, plus, Steve, the thing that bugs me is there's nothing I can do about it. Like, I actually cannot do anything. I can clean up my yard. I can pick up garbage, but I can't do anything about these big companies which pour so much pollution and chemicals into the ocean, the plastics, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Pollution is profitable, so forget about the cost. Let's just keep on making profit. Yeah.
So make a fist with your left hand. And I'm talking to everybody right now. Make a fist with your left hand.
Doing it.
Hold that fist while you do this. Continue that complaint. And I want you to think about somebody that you care about. Could be a friend, could be a lover. If you're in this sexual New Year's resolutions thing, it could be your spouse. And continue complaining and list the most annoying things about this person that you care about. And list times that they annoyed you recently and their annoying qualities. And this should be pretty easy for a lot of people, particularly if we're talking about their partners. And I want you to pour all of that betrayal, that disappointment, that anger, that disdain, that sort of like lack of trust, just pour all of these things into that left fist and get into that zone of when you're sitting there in your house and you're so annoyed at them. Maybe they left the toilet seat up and they splashed piss on the floor. Okay. So holding that space after doing this, Steve, did you get some complaints about somebody that you care about?
I'm gaga about this one woman, and there's very few complaints, but I do have some thoughts that I would like to change. Yes.
Okay. So how does it feel to be on that train? And I'm asking this to the listeners. How does it feel to be on that train of criticism and thinking these bad thoughts about that person that you care about?
It can even be disappointment. It doesn't have to be hostile. It can still be disappointment
it can
sadness.
Just be, yeah, it can be sadness. It can be feeling let down by them and can be betrayed. When you're on that train, when you're in that space, do you like them very much? Are you ready to end that friendship or that relationship? Or do you feel like you're in that questioning period? Do I even want this relationship? Do I want this marriage? And asking yourself, why do I even bother? Are you in that space of, you know what, I'm going to give this misery another 5 years. And then maybe when the kids are grown up, I'll leave it. Just, pay attention to that fist again with your left hand and really feel what it feels like to have all of these thought patterns and feelings come flooding back into your body. Okay. So if you can, some people can't because of the way their headphones are, or maybe they're driving or stuff like that. I want you to get up, shake it off, shake both your hands like as if you're shaking water off of them.
Okay, so I can unclench my left fist now.
Unclench the fist, shake it off.
Okay, I'm doing that. I'm standing up.
If you can stand up and like shake your body and kind of walk in a circle around the room, do it. Take a deep breath.
I am doing that. I'm actually
okay. Yeah.
Still got my headphones on, but I got a good cord, so I'm walking around the room.
Look at a boring spot on the wall and recite your phone number out loud to me backwards. Backwards, Steve. Okay, good. The backwards thing, I just wanted to break state, so that was good. Okay. And I'm going to have you find another boring spot on the wall, not the same one, a different one.
Okay.
Or on the ceiling, if you're lying on your back listening to this, and you can look at the ceiling, just find somewhere boring to focus on and begin to pay attention to your breath and start to breathe in slowly. And exhaling just a little longer than your inhale. And focus on lengthening that exhale just a little bit, making your breath comfortable. And allow your eyes to become unfocused now and blurry. And pay attention to the periphery of your vision instead of that focus spot. And pay attention to the very edges of the periphery and imagine expanding it back even further, almost as if you could see kind of behind your head, because there is a limit to our peripheral vision. And continue to breathe as you're focused. Your eyes are unfocused, I should say, and blurry. Breathe comfortably. And now close your eyes. And notice the weight of your body as it is supported beneath you by whatever it is that you're resting on. Notice the sensations of the soles of your feet. Maybe they're in socks and there's fabric against them, or maybe they're resting on the floor. Continuing to breathe nice and gentle. And notice your right hand and how the sensations in your right hand are different from the sensations on your left hand. And all we're doing is noticing without needing to make any changes. And what I'm going to have you do is imagine that you're breathing in and out from the center of your chest. And of course, the air is literally moving in and out of your nose or your mouth and coming through your throat. But imagine that the breath is coming from the chest and from the heart center. And that as you breathe, you're actually breathing in light in and out of your body. And go ahead and relax your body all the way. From head to toe, let a warm blanket of comfort and relaxation wash from the top of your head all the way to the tips of your toes and sink down even further, relaxing completely. Now, make a fist with your right hand. Not so hard that it hurts to hold it, but just make a fist and imagine something or someone that fills you with pure, unadulterated love and joy. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be a puppy. It could be imagining holding a newborn baby or the first time that you made love and you looked into your lover's eyes and held them after you did it that first time, or the best time. What matters is that you feel that love and feel it now, and just hold an imaginary smile as you breathe that love in and out of your chest and let it flow down into your hand. Just associate that fist with that feeling of beautiful love in your heart. Imagine that feeling of love shining from the center of your chest like a sun. And if you could turn up the volume on it, turn that love up from wherever it is all the way up to 10. So if it was from 0 to 10, turn up the volume all the way so that its brilliance overpowers everything and you're completely engulfed in this light. Hold that light and hold your right fist. Feel that love. And now I want you to make a fist with your left hand, and at the same time, think of the person that you complained about just a few moments ago. And I want you to shine all of that light, all of that love onto them, and send them all of the love and appreciation you have right now. Imagine looking at them with the light of love in your eyes and in your heart. And intentionally, with that love and with that light, imagine you could illuminate all of the things there are to notice about them that can be appreciated. go on a rampage in your own mind or out loud if you want to, because sometimes it feels good to just say it out loud. Go on a rampage of what you love about them in your mind, and notice how good it feels to be on that rampage of appreciation. And sometimes the things are really silly. I love how your fuzzy gray beard feels against my neck when you kiss me. How soft it feels. Or when you're working on the sink, your pants always slide down and there's this little plumber's crack. And it's hilarious, but somehow it just sparks this little joy of laughter in my heart. What you appreciate doesn't matter. What the point is that you're appreciating. You can relax your hands and open your eyes. And my question is, what's the difference between wanting to kill somebody that you're generally close to and wanting to love on them? Is it them? Are they, I say this in quotations, driving you nuts? Or is it you, and is it your thought patterns and the feelings that you have access to? And I'll give you the answer. It's you. And ultimately, if you're suffering due to your relationship, the answers lie inside of you versus in controlling the other person's behavior. And ironically, once you shift what happens internally, once you shift internally these feelings from criticism to appreciation, you will see, it is the law, you will see different circumstances with your partner or with the world at large, which are more satisfying. And so last night I listened to a live stream on YouTube by a phenomenal teacher and coach and healer named David Snyder, who I'm going to link to in the show notes. And somebody in the questions in this live stream asked him how to be happy. And I liked his answer well enough to write it down because, of course, I knew that Steve and I were going to be doing a podcast. And David Snyder said to live a life that is in harmony with your values. And that's the key to happiness. Because anything that, and that's the end of his quote, and I'm saying anything that's outside of your values is going to sort of chafe. So when you know what your values are, you need to be living within those values.
And that's different than trying to get what you want to pursue.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm paraphrasing, but he went on to say, you can't put responsibility for creating an optimal life on any other person.
Yeah.
And he said that, so he's a real family guy, and you can see that with his live streams. Like his daughters they're always popping into his live streams. He talks about his wife in glowing terms. He's really, really about his family. And he said, you know, if his family were to disappear, he has built just like from one day to the next, if they were to somehow disappear, he has a life that would be happy and fulfilling outside of them.
Yeah.
And that's the key. Everybody needs to build that. Everybody has to have a life that is happy and fulfilling instead of expecting somebody else to provide it for them.
Yeah, and that's different than I don't care about you, I'm indifferent. That's totally different.
It's a totally different thing.
What he's saying is I contribute. What I bring to the table is my joy and my well-being, and I share that with you. And I appreciate you, and I value you in my life.
He's all about what you bring to the table, because what you bring, you also get in return.
Yeah.
Steve, I'm going to conclude with this statement, but I want you to tell your story after this statement, and then we're going to stop recording.
Yeah.
So my question to the audience is, what 3 things can you do right now, today, tomorrow, next week, to take more responsibility for your sexual happiness so that you are not giving away that power to somebody else?
Big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
So
Before we go on, I just want to tell you that I have a hard time with woo-woo stuff. But this exercise you did makes me think, like, the story that I'm going to tell you about my experience with my mother. It sounds really trivial compared to what we've just went through. So I have my Kleenex box beside me, and I'm drying up the moistness in my eyes. So, there's something to that exercise. I encourage people to rewind this podcast and do this exercise, possibly several times. You don't do it back to back, but just do this exercise, the thing that Freya just walked us through. Do that. Rewind it and do it. I encourage you. I found it. I went into it skeptical because I don't deal well with woo-woo stuff. But there's something to it.
Well, technically speaking, I do have to say, now I'm a very experienced and also well-trained hypnotherapist and neurolinguistic programmer, and the effects that happen when you actually fully participate in this type of exercise are measured by science. Yeah. So this exercise was not a woo-woo exercise. It was to prove the point that how you feel is determined by what you focus on. Yeah. Because what you focus on is where energy goes. Yeah. And energy really is the ability to create work, right? So if your energy is on what you appreciate about people, you're going to get more of that. Yeah. If your energy is on what you hate about somebody, you're going to get more of that. It sounds simplistic, but somehow we humans forget about it as we sit there in this like critical commentary pattern, and then we wonder why we're not attracted to our partners.
Yeah.
And if you want to elicit sexual generosity from another person, you cannot ever elicit sexual generosity, willingness, and attraction from somebody by criticizing them. You can only get there by appreciating them, because I can tell you that when somebody appreciates you fully, you blossom in their presence. Mm-hmm. And that is actually, like, I know that I have met men who just love women. They appreciate them. That type of man feels really good to be around.
That's different than I desire you for sex or I desire your company. That's different. The appreciation is, I just like you. I like being around you.
It's totally different. Yeah. And when you stop criticizing, you can actually enjoy a person for who they are.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what their faults are.
Yeah.
Because their faults are not the part of them that you want to interact with anyway. You want to interact with the best of them. So focus on the best of them, and you're going to get the best of them.
Yeah. Whatever you focus on, you amplify in your experience.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Steve, I really want to hear this story.
It feels trivial compared to what we've just experienced. So here's the story. My mother's passed away now, but when she was alive, she used to have this really weird quirk where if we had a windstorm, I would get a call from my mother, Steve, are you okay? The wind is horrible. I just wanted to make sure you're okay. And it would aggravate me. Here I am, an adult. At the time I was in my 40s, late 40s. And I'm going like, why is she treating me like a kid? Just stop this. Cut it out. I'm fine. I'll let you know if I croak. I'm fine. And it would irritate me. And I believed she irritates me. She's treating me like a kid. And years later, I realized, why am I feeling this way? And that is because it's taking me back to being a kid. I'm feeling now the feelings I would have as a small child who's trying to prove, I'm grown up, I'm not a 5-year-old, I'm 6 now. You don't have to baby me anymore. That's what I'm feeling, and that's what I'm reacting to. So I chose to adopt a different perspective, and that is, rather than my mom is treating me like a kid, and she's calling upon me to make sure that I truly am okay, I chose to adopt another perspective, and that is, my mother is just being the way she is, has nothing to do with me. She's just being a mom concerned about her adult grown-up kids, not thinking that they're kids that they need care. She's just being a mom hoping for their well-being. Not that she can affect it or change it. She's just hoping for her well-being, and these are the words that she uses to express it. That's all it is. It's not that you're a kid. It's not like she's treating you like you're 5. It's not like she thinks you're helpless. She's just hoping for your well-being. And isn't that actually a nice kind of thing where someone cares about you?
It's actually a beautiful thing because she's loving you in the way that she knows how.
Someone cares about you and they're really hoping you're okay. Yeah. So when I could adopt that different perspective, it wasn't an aggravation anymore. It was just like, it's just mom. She's just hoping I'm okay. And I will thank her. Thanks, mom. I'm totally fine. I'm totally safe. No harm here. I'm fine. How are you doing? And it literally didn't bug me anymore when I could make that shift.
So when I was married, my husband was an acts of service guy. And he used to, looking back as an adult now, he really did a lot of things, and he did a lot of really good things, and he used to take care of everything. Like, he took care of all the details. I was like a child. I didn't pay attention to any details. He did it all. He did all the work. And I couldn't, and I was sitting there selfishly criticizing him for not giving me the attention and sex and love that I thought that I wanted. Mm-hmm. And I was so busy being in this critical space of neediness that I couldn't see that he was actually loving me tremendously, because you would not put that much work into somebody unless you loved them. Yeah. And he was working and he was working and he was doing and he was showing me he loved me in the only way that he knew how. And I was too wrapped up in my criticism to actually feel it. And if I had simply shifted just a little bit, I would have felt this. I wouldn't have felt alone. I wouldn't have felt abandoned. I wouldn't have felt like critical and unwanted and frustrated and unattracted to him because he wasn't giving me the kinds of things that I wanted. I would have been blown away by the love that he was actually giving me that I was unable to receive.
Yeah, it's because in your mind, love looked a certain way, and I'm not getting that thing that the way that love looks, so I'm not feeling loved.
Yeah.
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 And to bring that back to sexual New Year's resolutions, is it's not uncommon for people to feel, I'm not getting sex, I don't feel loved. When in fact, you are loved, you're just not having a lot of sex right now.
And a lot of times sex is a dynamic that is a completely different dynamic than love.
Yeah, totally different thing. You can love someone dearly and just absolutely adore them and not have sex with them. Totally different thing.
Yeah, so I would love to continue this discussion in terms of eliciting more sex, but that's not for today.
Yeah. To our listeners, rewind this podcast. Go back to that exercise that Freya did. I'm skeptical of that stuff, but I felt a shift just within those few minutes. And if it can do something for a cerebral guy like me, where I can feel a shift, then I believe that it can do something for you. Just allow it to be there. Don't try to think through it. Just have the experience.
That's exactly what my instructions were in the beginning. It was participate.
Yeah.
Don't think about this. Don't sit there disconnected and disassociated, analyzing it. Just participate in it. And I think what you'll find is that if you do the same thing with life and you participate in life instead of simply observing, you're going to have a lot more fun.